talking about when you borrowed your brother's guitar.
Well, he came home and gave it to me.
Gave it to you, yeah. And then when did you kind of get your second guitar, or down the road where you're like, this is finally a real guitar, not some
Yeah,
student
I remember
cheap thing.
those days. Okay, so 6th grade, I had this acoustic guitar, and we had this band, and we were doing rock and roll, but it was like the Christie Minstrels.
Okay.
So there were a couple of acoustic guitars, and we had kids, and we sang. And then my folks could tell, this kid's getting serious about this guitar thing, you know. My mom would say, would you like to do your math homework? No, I got the,
Yes.
I was flunking out of school, but they began to see I was getting serious about this guitar thing. And my dad's best friend in life, Joe Andreessen, owned Wiley Music downtown. And it was the piano store. But he took me down there, and out of Joe's catalog at Wiley Music, we ordered a harmony guitar and a harmony amp.
Okay.
And when it came, you know, and the amp was, you know, maybe this big, when it came, I was so excited. We went down to pick it up, and my dad, as we're leaving, said to his buddy Joe, he said, you watch. In a couple of years, I'm going to have to sell my car and get a station wagon to haul all this gear.
Yeah.
And he was right. By 9th grade, I'd purchased a Fender Bandmaster, you know, a cabinet with 2 big 12s and a head, you know, and my mom's Ford LTD car. If we took the back seat out of the car, I could get that cabinet in there. Jeez. And lo and behold, my dad sold his car and bought a hatchback.
Yeah.
Just to haul all my gear, you know.
Unbelievable.
But and then Guitarland.
Yes.
Is that still around when you were around? Yeah.
That's where I got my first guitar.
Well, your first, you said real guitar.
Oh, well, my first electric guitar.
Yeah. Well, I got a National Les Paul.
Okay.
You know, weighed about 800 pounds. But then in college, I traded that in on my first brand name guitar, and it was a Fender Telecaster.
Oh, fantastic.
Candy apple red.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I kept that, and I traded the National off on a Gibson 335.
Okay.
And that's when you start playing real instruments.
Sure.
You know. And now I'm a PRS guy. I got my
I
babies
saw
up there.
it today.
And, this is my main church guitar over here because it's got built-in piezo's. That's a first generation piezo. They were just coming out with that.
Okay.
But this is a PRS McCarty Model 2 fat. Mm-hmm. And they don't make them anymore.
Okay.
And I remember when these came out, you know, there's this thing called Guitar Player Magazine, which I subscribed to.
Yes, absolutely.
And I remember telling my wife, I said, hey, buddy, what do you think about going down to Minneapolis for the weekend? Oh, hi, what do you want to do? And well, there's this guitar I really want to check out. Oh, you know, of course she knew what it was when she picked it up, you know. Yeah. And I went to the Guitar Center. Yep. You know, and they had a bunch of McCarty Model 2s, the skinny ones, and they sounded great, but it was just like, I was a jazz guy. I was playing arch tops. I had a Super 400 and a Gibson 350. I was playing big instruments, and it's just, So I went to Willie's in St. Paul. Have you ever been there?
Yep.
Oh, is it still there?
Yeah, it's still, I just bought a guitar from them like 3 years ago.
Because he died.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I wasn't familiar with who.
But I actually
were there.
I walked into the store, and that was on the wall, and I looked, and it was fat.
Yeah.
I picked it off the wall, and I went chunk, and I said, "That's it." I've never felt anything like it. Was just wonderful, and I brought my Polytone amp with me.
Sure.
And I said, "Can I try this with my amp?" And I got it. They put me in a practice room. I think I played for 2 hours.
Sure.
And it has a big, fat, meaty jazz tone that is just unbelievable, and I cherish it, and I still practice now that I'm retired. I get to practice again.
Sure.
So I practice every day on that big fat jazz guitar, and when I have a jazz gig, man, you know, it's so once you start playing those high level instruments, you just can't go back.
So just to be clear, the Telecaster, then you got the Gibson 335, and then the next one, and then the 400, and then after that, that's when the PRSs were
Well, in college, you know, Jim Condell, my,
Yeah.
my guitar guy from Kansas City, said, you got to get yourself a real jazz guitar. So in those days, you could get a student loan, and they didn't care what you spent it on.
Yeah.
My buddy bought a Jeep. I ordered a Gibson Super 400 from the factory.
Oh wow.
And so I spent my student loan on that.
Okay.
You know, and so I had a lot of guitars. I had that Super 400, and man, that was a box.
Yeah.
You know, when I got older, I had to go to the chiropractor every time I played a gig with it because it was so big.
Yeah.
You know.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and my dad, through Joe Andreessen, somebody traded in a 1953 Gibson 350. Big archtop.
Yeah.
And he bought that for me, and I played that for a while. In LA, I played that.
Yeah.
And you know, you're always searching. You know, you're always searching for the sound, and I found it in that guitar there.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years later, I started reading about he was doing this piezo thing, and you could blend it, and it was like this. So I went down back to Willie's, played one, and then I ordered one, and I custom ordered that one.
Yeah.
And I just, they're wonderful instruments, but they've paid for themselves over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I imagine this fat one here is worth a lot of money because they don't make them anymore.
Also, to clarify, your wall of guitars there, are those pictures of your specific guitars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That I was at Willie's. Well, my high school band, after, you know, in the spring, they always give you a gift. Here's our gift. They gave me a certificate because they said, we knew you had a guitar coming from this place, and it wasn't here yet, and we wanted to help you out with it. And they gave me a gift certificate to Willie's for a couple $100, which I'd forgotten about. So I got, this had already been paid for, you know, so I got it, and so I went and said, I got this gift certificate, and I wanted a classical guitar, and this is a nice handmade Canadian one, and I really like it. I don't play it much because I haven't done a lot of classical since college. The Strat, I actually traded my Telly to Wade Schaefer for this Strat, and it's a Squire. But it's when Fender first started coming out with the Squire, the Mexican. And Bob DeKippy at Ekros told me about a year or two ago, I had him come and do some work on it. He said, this is that era where he said, I think this thing's pretty valuable. And I mean, that's when they were really good. They weren't cheap. Because every guitar player, you had to have a Strat. You know, and it's a Strat. It says Squire on it, but it's a Strat, and it's real great. I mean, I had no trouble with it. And that's, you know, sometimes the only guitar for the job is the Strat. You got to have it.
The one thing that I've always, and it's most likely just how my right hand plays, I hit that volume knob with my pinky all the time.
Really?
All the time. And I'm like, I can't get away from it. So then the guitars I have, always those knobs are a little farther away. Because I don't need to go and do a curl volume thing with that, which I think is kind of what a lot of people end up doing. But yeah, that's the one thing. That's why I don't really play that. I have a Stratocaster as well, but I'm like, I have some other things I play more. You know?
Well, the thing I love about my PRSs is they weigh this much. And McCarty was the brains behind the early Gibsons. There's a fascinating video out on the YouTube's Paul Reed Smith's interview with McCarty, how they got to be he said, I'm a luthier and I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I just love to talk to you. And they started talking, and they actually made these McCarty Model 2s. And what's in there is violin technology. It's completely hollow, but under the bridge is a solid piece of wood that goes all the way to the back. Because in a violin, there's a sound post, a little dowel called the sound post, and that's how the body resonates. And these guitars, when you play them, you can feel them vibrate on your belly in that spot. And that's a big, fat, meaty, jazz-sounding guitar. I can play as loud as I want and have no feedback. That was the problem with the arch tops. You're trying to keep up with the drummer and the bass player and the piano player and the and you're just turning up, and all you get, you constantly, you know, trying to keep your guitar from feeding back. No feedback. Whatsoever.
Amazing.
Beautiful instrument.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, as you were playing, like, again, one of my memories of, being at BHS is that when you had an open hour, you were in there with your version 1 or 2 of an Apple, the little tall little box thing.
yeah.
And you're like, hey, let me show you this. This is called a band in a box.
Yeah.
And it gives you all the rhythm stuff, so then you can go in here, the rhythm changes go by. And there was one day in particular, I was like, you're playing something that I haven't really heard. Oh yeah, I'm working on my whole tone scale thing. And I'm like, oh, it's amazing. And you showed me this. And, tell me about how, that technology, not just band in a box, but other technologies have really moved you forward as a guitar player.
I'm still using band in the box.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I have a routine that I do that I learned at GIT.
Yeah.
And before I get to play,
Yeah.
I got to go through the routine.
Okay.
It's a half an hour routine because I set that timer.
Sure. Now, the people that are going to watch this and myself have not been to GIT. Do you want to tell us what that routine is?
Well, it's like in the jazz world. It's just like if you're a tenor sax player, you need to know all your major scales, all your natural minors, all your harmonic minors. You need to know all your pentatonic scales, and you need to know all your chord arpeggios. And so my routine is I turn on band in the box, and I have created a practice page, and it's 2-5-1 in all 12 keys.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm doing it as a bossa, sometimes I'm doing it as a swing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it cycles through that thing 5 times. The first time through, I play all 12 major scales.
Yeah.
As it's changing,
Yeah.
and then I play the same major scales, but I play da 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 as in thirds, or I might play it in fourths.
Yeah.
Working on that, and then I sequence da 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 da, and then I do the arpeggios. Minor 7, 5-7, major 7-1.
Yeah.
And over the years you learn that on the 5-7 you do a diminished run, and it's the flat 9 thing, and all those things, and then I found out I was getting to the gig and I could play, but man, my hands were getting tired when I was comping. Well, so the last time through, I actually make myself comp.
Okay.
And the beauty is, band in the box, you go like this, and you can turn the tempo up or you can turn the tempo down, and if you're learning a new tune that, God, I just can't get that section, you create a band in the box exercise because you can make it go uber slow.
Yep.
And loop and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that technology, and they're still a valid company, and when I made the switch to these bigger, better Macs, man, I wish I'd kept that first Mac. I put it on the curb.
Oh, geez, really?
And nobody took it. So the garbage men came.
Oh, wow.
Why didn't I save that? I mean, what a beautiful thing that was, that
Yeah.
Mac. But of course these are, and the company is still creating band in the box and making it better and better and better, and all
big
the
deluxe
things you can do.
packages and all that with
Yeah,
the real
yeah.
tones and
And the beauty of band in the box is it'll generate, obviously it generates bass lines, and it'll
Yeah.
also do some piano comping, and it would also do chord comping on guitar.
Yeah.
But one year at Bismarck High, I didn't have a bass player, and I found a girl, a flute player who played piano, but I'm not a jazz player, I don't know any of this, and I would put in band into the box every jazz band tune we did,
yeah.
and print the bass part.
Okay.
And so she would do,
Yep. Perfect.
And so, yeah, the technology was cool. And the other big technology I use all the time, and I've been using it since Wapner Junior High, is Finale.
Yeah.
I'm doing all kinds of writing and arranging for the church, and for my group, Overeducated, I do a lot of that. And, I just dig that.
Yeah.
That's fun to do that.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
That stuff's always upgrading and upgrading and upgrading.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had all those on, a couple different computers, and then eventually something will happen and the computer will crash and it's unrecoverable, and you're like, oh gosh, I just now have to go buy a new computer and then try and load all that stuff on. It's super fun.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yes, absolutely.
It's your friend.